So based on what I just heard there, with the slowly escalating your voice, I think when my mom got to the top, she could have stopped that in the next county. Well, she ran a good book, about 700. What it seemed like when I was doing the dishes. So, I want to thank you for sending me to the legislature. I did enjoy it, but the right kind of enjoy. I'm a nerd, not on the tape. So I enjoy getting to know people. I enjoy getting to understand the process and being able to participate in what has been said was one of the most conservative legislatures that's happened in a long time. So I was on the business. I'm going to just kind of give you a little bit of the details about what I did and how it played out, some of the things I learned, and some of the things I had to unlearn. I was on business, which is responsible for banking, insurance issues, occupational licenses unrelated to healthcare. The Department of Finance, the Department of Insurance met on odd days. You had to pick 3 committees, although they did mention if you were going to be choosing JFAC, you should consider choosing 2 committees because it takes so much of your time. JFAC is the Joint Finance. I'm having a brain lock. Jim was on. Appropriations, thank you. Appropriations Committee, and they do a lot of deep dives into the funding of the state, so it takes a lot more time. So I was on business, and I was on local government, which was responsible for city and county governance, taxing districts, and it met on even days. So you would pick a morning, an even, and then 2 afternoon. And one would meet on the even days of the week, and one would meet on the odd days of the week. My 3rd committee was health and welfare, which was responsible for health, child care, pharmacy, medications, welfare, Medicaid, medical and healthcare related occupational licensing, and health districts. And it met daily, and we met at 9 o'clock. I had chosen local government resources, and I wanted to be on JFAC, but we were informed early on that they were not going to have any freshmen on JFAC. So I ended up not on JFAC, and I was asked to be on health and welfare, and that was probably the most interesting committee. I learned quite a bit about how the process works in the committee and how bills come to be. I see you've got the journey of a bill. I'm sure that's very accurate. Okay, that's from you, Jim. It looks like it, unless there's somebody else named Woodward.
It is, I'm not sure.
So that's probably a good way that a bill sails through the system, becomes from a draft to an RS to a bill, into a committee, out of a committee, onto the floor, 1st reading, 2nd reading, 3rd reading, calendar, suspension calendar, and those are the ones you're really in suspense about. No, I'm just kidding. So what I tried to do throughout the entire session was put out a newsletter, and the newsletter would just basically, it started out and changed. My newsletter changed about halfway through as I began to realize what people wanted to hear. They wanted to know what was going on and why things were going on. So I discovered early on that I couldn't answer every email. Some days I would get there and there would be literally hundreds and hundreds of emails in my inbox. So I did learn something about the emails I want to share with you. If I began to see an entire group of emails with the same subject line, I wasn't as attentive to those. I tried to scan through them, see if there were any from my district. First, I tried to answer and handle the emails and calls, and I got letters, and I got texts from my district first. Then I would try to answer other districts, and it became evident fairly early that I was just not going to be able to answer all the emails. So I began harvesting what I could using a program that LSO gave me. It was pretty effective, and created a newsletter. Then I created a Substack, and then I put the newsletter on Facebook. So those are the 3 ways I sent out the information. Did some of you get that?
Yes.
Okay, was it helpful?
Yes.
Okay. I think I got a little bit better as I got into it, began to realize what people wanted to know about. So what I'd like to tell you is, if you'd like to go back through all of the session, yeah, that's a great idea. If you put your name and email on here, I'll put you in my newsletter list. I should have thought of that. If you want to see all the emails or all the letters, or newsletters I wrote, you can subscribe to my Substack, which is free, and I've got them all posted on the Substack. Or if you want to do the ridiculously hard process of navigating through my Facebook page, you can find them all as well. I wouldn't do that. I'd subscribe to the Substack. So what I would like to do is just kind of plunge through a few of the bills that will probably jog your memory. They were bills that people were very concerned about as we went through the session. And if you have any questions, stop me right in the middle of it, except for Jim, he already knows the answers. And just ask me. I'll be glad to try to answer you. If I don't have an answer, I won't take you out. I'll just say I don't know. So I ran a bill. One of my first bills that I ran and got my butt kicked on was House Bill 101. And what that was I took it from committee, from draft to RS, which is a routing slip, and then from that point it goes to a bill, and then once it's a bill, then it's good for public consumption. When it's an RS or a draft, it's only something that the person who has that can look at and consider unless he gives it to somebody else. It's secret, if you will. It's not really the right way to put it, but that's kind of what it works out. Once it becomes a bill, then it's public property, and everybody can weigh in on it. The bill I had was H101, and the idea was that if a county or a road district wants to vacate or abandon a road that accesses public property, like Lake Ponderay, any public land, that they first have to provide alternate access to that public land. And they can do that a number of ways. They can do it, the county can do it, they can require it in the development process as the developer, they can write it into the development agreement, so the developer has to provide access, but the point was so that the public, Idaho public, does not lose access to public lands. Well, last year, it sailed through the Senate. This year, there was one county that was against it, and I won't go into all the details, but basically, I met with the county. I had a meeting in our office section. Their lawyer came in, county commissioners came in, and a number of, I believe, members of some of the heads of the agencies in that county, particular county, and we met, and it became fairly evident that I wasn't going to be able to satisfy all their concerns. But to make a long story short, when we got to the committee hearing, it failed in committee on a tie vote. So in committee, you have, in order for a bill to make it out of committee, you have to have at least one more vote on the positive side than you have on the negative side. If it's a tie vote, it's an automatic failure. So that one failed. Second bill I want to talk to you about is the SNAP bill, and SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And the SNAP bill started early on. It's kept the same number. Something I discovered that was interesting to me is as a concept made its way through the legislature, and new things were added in, and some things were pulled out, it would get a new bill number. And sometimes that was easy to follow. Sometimes it wasn't so easy, even for the people there. It was handy when you knew someone on the committee that was running through who could let you know, okay, so this is not like 345, which was the sideboards on the Medicare expansion, started out 58, then went to 138, then went to, I don't remember what the third number was, 320, I think, and then it went to 345. And basically, some of them were the less appetizing parts of the bill were stripped away one piece at a time, two pieces at a time, until they settled on 345. I'll get to it next. But SNAP, one of the things that I discovered is it's just like anything else. Do you trust social media? Good. Just filter it through your brain and through common sense, and people are usually, on social media usually has false information on social media has usually made its way around the world before the truth has had a chance to tie its shoelaces. I think that's basically off of an old saying. I can't remember who said it first. It wasn't me. So SNAP was vilified as a bill that was not going to let people buy candy, not going to let them buy soda. No, it was simply not going to allow them to purchase it with your tax dollars. That's all. If they wanted to buy soda or candy, they still could. But that was like the focal point of the argument.
They can't buy alcohol either.
They can't buy alcohol, they can't buy cigarettes, they can't buy, so yeah, but that was lost in the discussion. That sometimes just gets lost in the discussion. SNAP eventually did make it into law, but it's just funny that to me, the least egregious part of it was the one that everybody focused on. And the irony is that the name of the bill was named after the program that was supposed to supplement the nutrition of people that are on welfare. How much nutrition is in Zero Coke? Or Twizzlers? I've never had a Twizzler. Anyway, that was just to kind of point out that if people wanted to buy it out of their own pockets, they still can. They just don't get to do it with your tax money. That's all.
Right.
That's it.
And they shouldn't.
There was other things about that bill that were important as well, but that was the thing that seemed to be the linchpin that everybody was focusing on. 345. Oh, I kind of jump around. Back a few minutes ago, I said about emails. I was talking about emails. Well, it's okay if you go online and the Heritage Foundation has a prepared, pre-written email for you to click on and send to every legislative personnel on this planet, Mars, Pluto. Pluto's still a planet in my book. And so what you should do if you want to get your legislators' attention is write him or her a real email. Or change the subject line a little. Put your email and your address in the body of the email. Because when I saw those, I grabbed those and put them in my newsletter list. I've got about 700 names in the newsletter list now. But if it was subject@voterservices.com, I didn't respond because we got literally thousands of those. So if you change the subject line, put your name in the body of the email, at least for me, that would signal to me this is a real email, and I would be more likely to read it as well. So change the subject line. That's a start. 345. Put reasonable sideboards on Medicare. We started out with 13 exclusions, then it dropped to 11. Then in the third bill, I think it was 5 or 7, and then in the final bill, it was 4. These are things that the federal government has to agree to in order for this particular bill to take effect. Some of the requirements were so that the working poor who are benefiting from Medicaid had to report their work week. It also brought the adjusted gross income for those who qualify to 100% of the poverty level, not 138%. It implements a couple of changes to the eligibility determination. It ended the automatic renewal, which means that the people who are responsible for helping you renew your Medicare actually have to pay attention what's on the page. It doesn't automatically populate. You've filled out stuff enough times on your Facebook or on some of your maybe your business documents or your bank documents that the second time you do it, you start to type your email in and it fills it for you. You start to type your address and it fills it for you. It removed that auto population so that it just made them put their eyes on it a little bit more as they were filling it out. It stipulated lastly that no funds would be used to fulfill any contract or commercial transaction with a healthcare provider or facility that agreed to provide services prohibited under the section. You'd think that'd be a no-brainer, but sometimes it's not. It also stipulated that no funds would be used to fulfill any gender reassignment procedures. So your tax dollars wouldn't be used to be paying for gender reassignment if the resident was 18 years of age or older, including treatment and surgery for any resident 18 years of age or older. So those are some of the things that H135 did, or H345 did.
But minors?
Oh, I think that's covered as well, but that's not under this. That wasn't under this one.
It's a lot of it.
Yeah, that's already law. That's not covered under this bill. 135 removed welfare benefits from illegal aliens. Now, and one of the early arguments was, what about emergency rooms? It didn't have anything to do with emergency rooms. If an illegal alien is in an accident, they're covered. They're going to go to the emergency room. They're going to get treated. What it did was it simply set it up so that illegal immigrants could no longer partake of Idaho's fairly robust welfare system willy-nilly, just for whatever reason. That one passed the House, 46 in favor and 22 opposed. Any questions? By the way, if you have questions, some of the presentations I've done, people just want to hear about the bills. Is that going to work for you guys? Is this okay? Okay. So 1021, I've just got a couple more. So that's a bill I sponsored and that actually passed unanimously. Prior to 2020, if there was a family who could no longer take care of a child, or a child who was in the foster care system, and there was another family who was willing to adopt them, that process could happen in one hearing. We would have a hearing, this family would terminate their rights, or health and welfare would terminate their foster child rights, and the new family would adopt them. And it would quickly move a child from either foster care or from a poor family situation into a loving family situation. And it was done voluntarily, only if the parents were willing to terminate their rights. In 2020, the courts decided that that's not in statute. You can't do that. You need to have a termination hearing and then an adoption hearing. Well, in Idaho's clogged court system, that would mean a child would be in the situation they were in for up to 4 or 5 months long. So this bill simply put those two hearings back together. That's all it did. I mean, there was a few other things that trial lawyers were worried about. The language, so that it would, like some of the language, if a smart attorney read it one way, it would look like no hearing was necessary. Well, I read the bill like 30 times and I couldn't find that. I'm not a lawyer, so that's probably why I couldn't find it. But apparently they said that was a possibility, so that was put in an amendment to make sure that there would have to be a hearing. But it was conflated or redesigned back to one hearing, which would mean the child could get into a loving family 3 to 5 months sooner. And that one passed, I think it passed in both the House and Senate unanimously. 1023 was the original Medical Freedom Act that we brought out, and it prohibited businesses or government agencies, including schools, from mandating the requirement of vaccines or other medical interventions as terms of employment, transportation, or service. It did nothing to stop a school from sending a sick child home. It did nothing to stop a business owner from sending a sick employee home. I've sent sick employees home. I come to work one time and said, I don't want you coughing on me, go home. So, but what it did say is let's say that employee had splotches all over his face. What it did say is I couldn't say to him, and further, you've got to get a measles vaccine before you come back to work. I couldn't do that. I couldn't mandate a medical treatment. That was the basis of the bill. You have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. Does that include the child vaccine schedule for requiring children to get the vaccine?
Correct.
For the show? Okay.
That's also another statute as well. But in this particular case, it allows children who are going to, there was a religious exemption and just a conscientious objection. So yeah, you can't mandate children. And then what we did, so long story short, this bill got an amendment in the House, I think it got an amendment in the Senate, and then it passed both the House and the Senate, and then the governor vetoed it. His concern is, he had a couple of concerns. One of them was that they were concerned that schools couldn't send sick children home. Well, that's enshrined in other statutes. So what we did when we refabricated it in Bill 1210 was that language was inserted into the bill, that this does not preclude schools from sending children home who are sick pursuant to Idaho statute, thus and such. I don't remember which one it is, like 18. No, that's the different one. 15, it's in this Title 15, I think, or Title 33. How's that?
It's somewhere in the 600 bills.
Or it could be in Title 57. Or Title 91.
You only have
I believe
600
it's
bills to
about-
choose from, right?
What's that?
You only have like 600 bills to choose from.
No, there were, almost 800,
Oh,
but we
yeah.
didn't hear them all. We didn't hear them.
I have a question, Cornel.
Yes,
Does that also mean that they can't mandate COVID testing?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that bill passed the House, passed the Senate, and I just looked online today. I believe it was signed April 4th. So it's in statute. And then I'll just quickly talk about the other one, the ivermectin bill. When that bill passed, and all that really does is it allows ivermectin to be sold over the counter. Which it's done in a number of states already, and most other countries it's sold.
In other places than like farm stores?
Yeah. You don't want to be smearing paste on your forehead.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, I did get one constituent emailed me and then called me, why don't you add this bill in, or add this drug and this drug, and these are other good, well-known drugs and I explained to him, I said, when you put too many things into a bill, it can cause consternation in the minds of the legislators. So I said, we'll look at those other medicines maybe sometime in the future, but let's get this one done. And, baby steps. So it's called incrementalism, and sometimes getting freedom back takes incremental steps. We lost it in incremental steps, and you can't get it back overnight. And it also forces the legislators to think through what they're doing. And doing things piecemeal like that can be, I think, can make better law, because you're not trying to do too much at once. And then we did have a number of bills that came over from Health and Welfare that repealed existing code that was either outdated or had no application today to agencies that had ceased to exist 30 years ago and was still in statute. So in one bill that Health and Welfare brought, we repealed 150 pages. And it was the largest repeal in Idaho history, but it was mostly agencies that didn't exist, programs that didn't exist anymore. It was just, they were still in statute. So one thing that'll do though is if you decided to print out the whole statute, it would cost you about $8 or $10 less because of all those pages.
Cornel, speaking of bills that shouldn't be in the system anymore, I did email you this, and I think you said it was too late in the season, but one of the ones is the court docs are $1 a page when you public records them. And the problem with that is that you can get 8 gigabytes of a video or an audio from the courts for $10, at least in our county. I know it varies. And so I argued with the clerk, could we maybe whatever we can get on that 8 gigabytes, because all you're doing is clicking and pasting, right? You're not really printing and putting a lot of labor in it. And the clerk's actually fine either way. Glenda and I had a really good conversation about it. But the problem is that the people that are going through the court system, they're supposed to be able to get their discovery back from their attorney, but a lot of times the attorneys aren't doing that. And so then the person's having to go down to the courthouse and pay $1 a page, and if you're going through the court system for a year-ish or whatever, you could be 400 to 1,000 pages. So that's gonna be like $400 to $1,000 to get your docs.
I think that concept is being considered. It's gonna have to be worked through with the court system and with the clerks. And bear in mind that sometimes those documents require redacting.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. We're talking about the documents that are literally down in the courthouse in the computer that I or anyone in this community can. So they're already redacted before they're inputted into the system.
So there is, I believe that's being looked at for the next session.
Yeah, thank you.
A little off topic here, but I've been reading this presidential order from President Trump about election integrity, and I just wondered if Idaho is planning on complying with it, because somebody better get busy on this thing, because there's a lot of work to do if we're gonna comply. And it covers smurfing, it covers real ID, it covers machine audit. They want to audit the machines for compliance with the EAC, and they're gonna have to go through every name in the voter roll to determine if they're legal or not citizens. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on this before the next federal election.
Yeah, those would be questions we'd want to ask the Secretary of State.
I understand, but I wonder if there's anybody working on this.
I don't know if there is or not.
And I've got a copy for you if you want.
Okay, great, yeah, I'd like to have it.
Yeah.
I'd like to have it. And then so last, yes.
Back to the ivermectin, is Merck Pharmaceutical, are they gonna put warning labels on there? Because you can just buy it like a Tylenol over the counter? For any drugs?
Every drug is required by federal law to have the little document that comes with it, the warning labels.
Yes.
It'll have dosages suggested,
Good.
just like Tylenol does, just like aspirin does. Yeah, those kinds of things are already in statute.
Okay.
Yeah. So, lastly, when you contact your legislator, please keep doing that. And I will answer. I'll do the best I can to answer. I'll answer phone calls. I wanna give you just kind of a humorous story. My first, partly because I'm just dumber than a post sometimes. My first probably 3 weeks, I would get phone calls, messages, and I couldn't understand. Because the machine played them back at like 87 speed. And it sounded like an auctioneer on meth. And so I didn't know what to do about that. Finally, I contacted LSO, and you know what he said? Press 4. He said, press 4. He said, yeah, that slows the recording down.
Oh my gosh.
That's what you sent to the State House. So anyway, once I figured out how to slow the recording down, I was able to call people back. Yes,
I have a question about the firing squad.
yes.
Do we have death penalty already by other methods?
Yeah, it's a lethal injection. And so some of the background behind that, 7% of the lethal injections fail. For a number of reasons. First of all and foremost is pharma gives us the use of the outdated drugs that they're using for that, because these are just criminals. No, they're human beings. And so 7% of them fail. Secondly, I don't know about you, but I'd rather go out quick than watch that liquid coming down the tube and across and into my arm. You know, that's kind of macabre, it seems like to me. Firing squad's gonna be done by machines. It'll be done by humans pressing buttons. And it's 100% effective.
So you're saying no one's holding the gun,
No one's holding the gun.
so no one has to go home?
There are people who press buttons. Nobody knows which machine is loaded.
Okay.
So it's the same concept.
Yeah.
A firing squad had, I think it was like 13 or 7 or however many it was, and 1 or 2 of the guns had a live round in it, and the rest of them didn't. You didn't know if it was yours or not, for your conscience sake. Same thing, it will be the machine and you'll be pressing
So
buttons.
what's the setting? Is it indoor, outdoor?
It'll be indoor.
Are they gonna build a special building?
I'm not sure about that.
Oh, that makes me mad.
What made you guys decide on the minors that are being molested by adults? What made your decision on 12 years old? About them being,
Penalty.
yeah, their
The penalty,
penalty.
why did they settle on 12?
Yeah,
I didn't make that decision, so I don't know what the reason for that was.
okay.
No, can I clarify? what
Yeah,
you're
go ahead.
talking about? Because, so they passed a bill making the penalty for,
Child
child
molestation.
molestation up to life in prison,
And it should.
right?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So is that, if the child was under 12 or over 12, what's?
No, child molestation would be under 18. But there's a special dispensation for children under
There's
12.
actually a very high percentage of children being molested, believe it or not.
So,
So is there increased penalties for under 12? Is that why the 12?
they just offered the firing squad.
Yeah,
As an option for penalty?
yes.
Punishment.
Oh, they did.
Oh, they did have that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I know.
Any other questions?
I just wanna say that, for me, following you closely, thank you very much. You did a wonderful job. I'm not gonna say I necessarily agree with everything, but I definitely agree with a high percentage of your stuff. I think you aligned with the people who voted you in,
Yes.
and, you were very you were as responsive as you could, with the communications, and I really appreciate your newsletter. Unfortunately, I asked the other 2 reps multiple times if I could have a newsletter and never received a response back from them, so I appreciate the efforts you
Happy
gave.
to take your email address, did never see an email.
Everybody has a different
Thank
level
you,
of
Woodward.
visit too.
I can make a
So if you would like to be on my email list, your name and your email, and I will not farm it out to somebody who will try to fix your automobile warranty, so. Thank you.